The snow was falling so thick that the streetlights seemed to glow with halos in the white darkness. It was 2 days before Christmas, and the city had been caught off guard by a blizzard that had swept in, faster than anyone had predicted. The streets were already covered with several inches of fresh snow, and the wind whipped it into swirling patterns that made it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Marcus Callahan stepped out of his office building into the storm, pulling his dark overcoat tighter against the cold. He was 36 years old, with dark hair styled carefully back and the kind of tailored suit that spoke of success and careful attention to detail. As the CEO of Callahan Industries, a technology company his father had founded and he'd expanded into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, Marcus was used to being in control. He planned everything, anticipated problems, and solved them with efficiency. But he hadn't planned for this blizzard. His driver had called an hour ago to say the roads were becoming impassable, and Marcus had made the decision to walk the 8 blocks to his downtown apartment rather than wait. He'd grown up in this city, walked these streets as a child. A little snow wouldn't stop him. The Range Rover parked at the curb belonged to one of his executives who'd wisely left it here and taken a taxi home earlier. Marcus passed it without a second glance, his dress shoes crunching in the fresh snow as he began walking down the empty street. Most businesses had closed early, and the few people who'd been out had already hurried home. The city felt abandoned, wrapped in white silence broken only by the wind. He'd walked maybe 2 blocks when he saw her. At first, she was just a small shape on the stone steps, leading up to an old brownstone building. Marcus might have walked right past, assuming it was just a bundle of discarded clothes or bags someone had left behind. But then the shape moved, and he realized with a shock that it was a child. A little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, sat alone on the snow-covered steps. She wore a pink coat that was too thin for weather like this, and her blonde hair was pulled back in a braid that was coming loose. Her small feet and worn gray shoes swung slightly above the ground, and she stared straight ahead with an expression far too serious for such a young face. Marcus stopped, his business mind immediately trying to make sense of what he was seeing. A child alone in a blizzard in the middle of the city. Where were her parents? Why was she sitting here? He approached slowly, not wanting to frighten her. "Hello," he called out gently, raising his voice to be heard over the wind. "Are you all right?" The little girl turned to look at him, and Marcus saw that her cheeks were red from the cold and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. But she didn't look frightened of him. Instead, she studied his face with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "Are you Marcus Callahan?" she asked, her small voice clear despite the storm. Marcus felt his heart skip. "Yes, I am." "How do you know my name?" "My mom showed me your picture," the girl said. "She said if I saw you, I should tell you we need help." "She said you're the only one who can help us." Marcus crouched down so he was at her eye level, snow immediately soaking into the knees of his expensive trousers. "Where is your mother, sweetheart?" The little girl's lower lip trembled. "She's at home. She's sick. She sent me to find you because she said you'd be leaving your building around now. She said you always leave at 6:30 on Wednesdays." A chill ran down Marcus's spine that had nothing to do with the cold. "How does your mother know when I leave my building?" "She used to work there," the girl said simply. "Before she got sick." Marcus's mind was racing. He employed nearly 300 people in this building alone. Without a name or description, he couldn't possibly know who this child's mother was. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," the girl said. "Lily Foster." Foster. The name sparked something in Marcus's memory, but he couldn't quite grasp it. "And your mother's name?" "Amanda Foster," Lily said. "She was your secretary." "Before Miss Helen." And suddenly Marcus remembered. Amanda Foster had been his executive assistant 3 years ago, a quiet woman in her late 20s who'd been efficient and professional. She'd left rather suddenly, Marcus recalled, giving only 2 weeks' notice. She'd said something about family obligations, about needing to relocate. He'd been disappointed to lose her, but had respected her decision and hired Helen to replace her. "I remember your mother," Marcus said carefully. "But Lily, why did she send you out in this storm to find me?" "Why didn't she just call?" Lily's eyes filled with tears that spilled over onto her cold, reddened cheeks. "Because she's too proud to ask for help on the phone. She said she needed to see you in person, but she's too sick to leave the apartment, so she sent me to find you and bring you back. She said—" Lily paused, wiping her eyes with small mittened hands. "She said she was sorry for asking, but we don't have anyone else." Marcus felt something crack in his chest. Whatever was happening here, whatever Amanda Foster needed, it had to be serious for her to send her young daughter out into a blizzard to find him. "Where do you live, Lily?" he asked. 4 blocks that way," Lily pointed down the street. "Mom said you'd pass right by our building if you were walking home like you usually do." Marcus made a decision. "Can you take me there? To your mother?" Lily nodded and stood up from the steps, wobbling slightly. Marcus realized she must have been sitting there for a while, waiting for him in the cold. He took off his overcoat and wrapped it around her small shoulders. It swallowed her completely, but at least it was warm. "Come on," he said, offering his hand. "Let's go see your mom." Lily's small hand slipped into his, trusting and cold even through her mittens. They walked together down the snowy street, Marcus adjusting his stride to match her shorter steps. The wind had picked up and visibility was getting worse. Marcus wondered how this small child had made it 4 blocks through this storm alone, and felt his respect for her courage grow with each step. The building Lily led him to was old and worn, in a part of downtown that had seen better days. The brick was crumbling in places, and the entrance door stuck when Marcus tried to open it. They climbed 3 flights of narrow stairs that smelled of cooking and damp. And finally, Lily stopped in front of a door marked 3C. She knocked in a pattern, 3 quick raps followed by 2 slower ones. "It's me, Mama," she called. "I found him." The door opened almost immediately, and Marcus saw Amanda Foster for the first time in 3 years. He barely recognized her. The efficient, neatly dressed assistant he remembered had been transformed into a woman who looked like she was holding on by a thread. She was painfully thin, her face gaunt and pale, and she leaned heavily against the doorframe as if standing took all her strength. But her eyes were the same, intelligent and determined, and they filled with tears when she saw Marcus standing there with her daughter. "Mr. Callahan," she whispered. "You came. I wasn't sure. I told Lily you would, but I wasn't sure." "Amanda," Marcus said, and the shock in his voice was evident. "What's happened to you?" Amanda's smile was sad. "A lot. Please, come in. You must think I'm crazy, sending my daughter out in a blizzard to track you down like some kind of stalker." Marcus stepped into the small apartment, and what he saw made his heart ache. It was clean but sparse, with minimal furniture and walls that needed paint. A small Christmas tree sat in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments and a few twinkling lights. But it was warm, and there was evidence of love everywhere. From the drawings taped to the refrigerator, to the worn teddy bear, sitting on the threadbare couch. Amanda closed the door and moved slowly to sit down, as if every movement required careful thought. Lily immediately went to her side, and Amanda wrapped her arm around her daughter with visible relief. "I'm sorry to ask you here like this," Amanda began. "I know it's strange and probably concerning, but I didn't know what else to do. And time," she paused, her voice breaking slightly. "Time is something I don't have much of anymore." Marcus sat down across from them, his wet clothes forgotten. "Tell me what's going on, please." The story that emerged over the next 30 minutes was heartbreaking. Amanda explained that shortly after leaving Callahan Industries 3 years ago, she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She'd left her job because she couldn't keep up with the demands while undergoing treatment, and she'd wanted to spend as much time with Lily as possible. Her parents were both deceased, and Lily's father had never been in the picture. "I've been fighting it for 3 years," Amanda said quietly. "I've done everything the doctors recommended, but it's spread, and they've told me I probably have 6 months, maybe less. My biggest fear isn't dying, Mr. Callahan. It's leaving Lily alone." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "You don't have any family who can take care of her?" Amanda shook her head. "No one. I've been trying to figure out what to do, but the state will put her in foster care when I'm gone. And she's such a special little girl. She deserves more than to be shuffled through the system, to lose everything familiar when she's already lost so much. So why did you send her to find me?" Marcus asked gently. "I don't understand what you think I can do." Amanda looked at him with those determined eyes, and Marcus saw the strength that was keeping her going despite her failing body. Because I worked for you for 2 years. Mr. Callahan, I saw the kind of man you are. I saw how you treated people, how you valued loyalty and compassion even in business. And I know—" She paused, seeming to gather her courage. "I know you lost your wife 5 years ago. I know you don't have children. And I thought maybe, just maybe, you might consider taking care of Lily when I'm gone." The request hit Marcus like a physical blow. He sat back, unable to speak for a moment. Amanda was asking him to adopt her daughter, a child he'd just met, a responsibility he'd never planned for. "Amanda," he began, his voice uncertain in a way that was completely unfamiliar to him. That's an enormous thing to ask." "I know," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face now. "I know it is. And if you say no, I understand. But I had to ask. I had to try. Because when I think about who I'd want raising my daughter, who I'd want teaching her about the world, and helping her become the person she's meant to be, I think of you. The way you treated your employees with respect. The way you always had time to listen when someone had a problem. The way you built something meaningful instead of just chasing profit." Marcus looked at Lily, who was watching him with those serious blue eyes. She'd been quiet during her mother's explanation, but now she spoke. "I'd be good," she said softly. "I promise I'd be really good. I wouldn't be any trouble." And in that moment, Marcus felt his carefully controlled world shift on its axis. He thought about his life, about the emptiness of his apartment, about the years since his wife Sarah had died in a car accident. He'd thrown himself into work, building the company into something bigger and more successful than anyone had imagined. But he'd done it partly to avoid dealing with the loneliness, the grief, the feeling that something vital was missing from his life. He thought about Sarah and the conversations they'd had about having children someday. They'd been planning to start trying when the accident happened, and Marcus had buried those dreams along with his wife. Now here was this little girl, brave enough to sit alone in a blizzard waiting for a stranger, all because her mother believed he was the one person who could help them. And here was Amanda, dying but fighting to secure her daughter's future with her last breaths. "Can I ask you something, Lily?" Marcus said quietly. Lily nodded. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Lily thought about it seriously. "I want to be a teacher, like Miss Rodriguez at my preschool. She's really nice and she helps kids learn to read." "That's a wonderful dream," Marcus said. "And what's your favorite thing to do?" "I like drawing," Lily said, warming to the topic. "And I like stories. Mama reads to me every night before bed. Right now we're reading Charlotte's Web." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. These were the conversations he should have been having with his own child by now. The dreams and hopes and simple joys of childhood that he'd thought he'd never be part of. He looked at Amanda. "If I agree to this, I need to know everything. Medical information, legal documentation, what you need from me to make this work." Amanda's face transformed, hope lighting it from within. "You mean—" "I mean, I'll do it," Marcus said. And even as the words left his mouth, he knew they were right. Terrifying, life-changing, completely unplanned, but right. "I can't promise I'll be perfect at it. I don't know the first thing about raising a child. But I can promise I'll do my best. I can promise Lily will have everything she needs, and that she'll know she's loved and valued." Amanda broke down completely then, sobbing with relief. Lily looked confused at first, then gradually understanding, and then her small face broke into a smile. "Really?" she asked. "You'll really take care of me when Mama goes to heaven?" Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. Lily slipped off the couch and walked over to him. She looked up at his face, studying it carefully. Then she did something that broke Marcus's heart and healed it at the same time. She crawled up onto his lap, wrapped her small arms around his neck, and whispered, "Thank you." Marcus held her, this tiny person who'd just changed his entire life, and felt tears on his own cheeks for the first time since Sarah's funeral. The next 6 months were both the hardest and most meaningful of Marcus's life. He hired the best lawyers to handle the adoption proceedings, and they fast-tracked the process given Amanda's terminal condition. He moved Amanda and Lily into his apartment, which had enough space for them to have their own rooms and was close to better medical facilities. He learned what it meant to be a parent, though in reverse. Instead of starting with a baby and learning gradually, he was thrown into the deep end. With a young child who had opinions and fears and needs he was constantly trying to anticipate. He learned about bedtime routines and favorite foods, and how to braid hair after watching 3 YouTube tutorials. He discovered that his business skills translated surprisingly well to parenting when it came to scheduling and organization, but that the emotional aspects required him to grow in ways he'd never expected. He also spent time with Amanda, listening to her stories about Lily's early years, learning about her daughter's quirks and preferences. Amanda told him about Lily's fear of thunderstorms and her love of pancakes shaped like animals. She shared videos and photo albums, making sure Marcus would have memories to share with Lily when she was older. Amanda died on a quiet Tuesday morning in May with Marcus and Lily beside her. Her last words to Marcus were, "Thank you for giving me peace." Her last words to Lily were, "I love you, my sweet girl. Be brave and kind." The funeral was small, and Marcus held Lily's hand throughout the service. She cried, and he cried with her. This man and child who'd been strangers 6 months ago and were now all each other had. The adoption was finalized 2 weeks later. Marcus Callahan became legally responsible for Lily Foster, and she became Lily Callahan. He framed the adoption certificate and hung it in his office, next to the photo of him and Sarah on their wedding day. Life changed in ways Marcus could never have predicted. Board meetings were scheduled around school pickups. Business trips were carefully planned to minimize time away from home. His apartment, once austere and quiet, filled with toys and laughter and the occasional tantrum. He learned patience he didn't know he possessed and discovered joy in the smallest moments, making breakfast together, reading bedtime stories, watching Lily's face light up when she mastered something new. 5 years later, Marcus stood in the audience at Lily's elementary school winter concert, watching her sing with her 4th grade class. She'd grown taller, her blonde hair now cut in a bob that she'd chosen herself, and she wore glasses that made her look wise beyond her years. When she spotted him in the crowd, she waved and Marcus waved back, his heart full. After the concert, as they walked home through the December evening, Lily slipped her hand into his. "Dad?" she said. She'd started calling him that naturally about a year after Amanda died, and every time she said it, Marcus felt grateful. "Yes, sweetheart? Do you ever think about that night? When I found you in the blizzard?" Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "All the time?" "Me too," Lily said thoughtfully. "I was so scared that night, but Mom was so sure you'd help us. She said you had a good heart, and she was right." Marcus felt his eyes sting with tears. "Your mother was a remarkable woman. She gave me the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. She gave me you. I think it was a gift for both of us," Lily said with the wisdom of a child who'd learned early about love and loss. "Mom gave us each other." And that was exactly what Amanda Foster had done. In her final months, facing death with courage, she'd given her daughter a future and given Marcus a reason to live fully again. She'd trusted a former boss with her most precious treasure and had been right to do so. Years later, when Lily was grown and pursuing her dream of becoming a teacher, she would tell people about the night she sat on snowy steps waiting for a man she'd never met, believing with a child's faith that he would help them. She'd talk about her mother's courage and her father's kindness, about how love can create families in unexpected ways. And Marcus, now in his 50s, would look at his daughter with pride and remember the blizzard, night when a little girl changed his life forever. When he learned that sometimes the greatest plans are the ones we never make. When he discovered that love isn't just something that happens to you, but something you choose every day in 1,000 small ways. The lesson Amanda Foster taught them both was simple but profound. That asking for help isn't weakness but strength. That trusting others with what matters most is an act of faith. And that sometimes the most important thing we can do is to see someone in need and simply say yes. Marcus had said yes to a dying woman's desperate request. And in doing so, he'd found his way back to life, to hope, to the future he'd thought he'd lost. He'd become a father to a child who needed him, and discovered that in saving her, she'd saved him too. That's what love does. It transforms strangers into families. It turns endings into beginnings. And it reminds us that even in the darkest storms, there's always the possibility of finding our way home.